And welcome to Motivation. This is an episode that you've seen before. You're going to think you've seen it before because you're going to be looking at my lovely guest, who is Paula Meyers, and you're going to say, I've seen the show, but guess what? You haven't. This is part 2 with Paula Meyers talking about her experience in Israel with the Warrior's Quest. And you know, Paula, it was so exciting having you on several weeks ago that I asked you about doing part 2, and you said you would, and I'm just happy that you came on. I think you have an exciting story, and I told you this. I said, ladies, she should be writing a book. You really should be writing a book, your life, etc. So when we were talking on the first show, we talked about you auditioning for the show, and for people that aren't aware of it, you auditioned for something called the Warrior's Quest. Again, briefly, what was that? And then I need you to actually tell me in the viewing audience what it was like, because there was a point in there that people thought you were actually going to quit, but you didn't. So can you explain that?
Sure. Warrior's Quest was a 10-day event in Israel that was open to people from anywhere in the world that wanted to come and experience this amazing, I can't even put it into words, but this amazing experience in terms of a reality-based training for military Krav Maga. Mm-hmm. So I've been certified in civilians, in VIP protection, all different kinds, law enforcement, but I never thought that I should get my military Krav Maga instructor training because I've never been in the military. But when I heard about Warrior's Quest, where they actually put you through the selection process, if you make it through selection, you go to basic training. Mm-hmm. If you make it through basic training, you go to special forces training. Once you make it through that, you go what they call operational. So we even made forays behind enemy lines to gather intelligence about terrorist groups and to actually bring back suspects. And it was very intense training. And you mentioned that at one point that
they thought you were going to
I was going to quit. Right. Well, in my head, I knew I would never quit. Mm-hmm. I knew that they would have to either drag me kicking and screaming, or I'd break a leg or something and not be able to physically continue. Mm-hmm. There was a point, and I didn't know this until afterwards when the reality show came on. We had, during one of our tests, it was an obstacle course, and I believe the slowest person was supposed to get eliminated. And that slowest person, lo and behold, imagine that, was me.
Oh no,
yeah.
It can't be.
It was me, yeah.
Oh, okay.
Well, and it was one of those things you had to run uphill, scale a 12-foot wall. There were people in full protective gear attacking you. So not only did you have to make it through this obstacle course, which involves scaling walls, jumping through windows, defending yourself. Oh, and by the way, I had my extra heavy fake rifle with me that I couldn't leave. And so amazingly, the littlest, oldest person was the slowest. Mm-hmm. However, I think what might have saved me was that my fighting, just tenacity, and just, I'm not going to let these big people bowl over me, and I'm going to do it. So we went from that, and I think I'm very glad I didn't know I was on the verge of getting tossed, because the next day we climbed Masada.
Oh, I saw that, yes.
And Masada is, it's like 350-meter height difference, but we did it, it was over 40 degrees Celsius, and I never did the translation to degrees Fahrenheit until just recently, because it was just incredible, and I thought if I knew it would be way too much. It was like 110 degrees. So not only are we climbing up this thing, but we're full gear. Yeah. We're full backpacks. We were light on water through a little bit of a technicality. And we were carrying ourselves well, not ourselves. Okay, here's how they did it. They picked always the lightest person and the heaviest person to carry on
They
the
carried
stretcher.
you.
They carried me
Solid.
for a while. Now, Avi, who is the head of Krav Maga, told me usually they carry you face up, right, and feet first. And he told me, I want you face down,
case they
head
drop
first.
you.
So that way, in the case they drop you, you might have a chance to do a break fall. So that put a little bit of nerves in me. So then, about halfway up, we switched, and then we put the heaviest guy on
They're
the
Posen,
stretcher.
right? Posen?
Stefano,
Stefano.
a Greek guy,
Okay.
Stefano. He was amazing, just a big brute, and just really good team member. So we get him, we're carrying him up, plus we're carrying all our gear. We get to the top, and I'm guessing it took us about 3 hours
Wow.
of just
Wow.
unbelievable.
Were you exhausted? Because I was exhausted watching you.
Yes and no. I
I'm
mean,
sure.
yes, I
I
was.
was tired watching.
But I mean, again, it was just that I'm being helped along.
Yeah.
I really felt God's
Felt
strength.
God kind of like pushing you.
pushing.
Yeah.
So, and here's the part: we get to the top, and we had to write down 2 names, and the person with the most names written down was not allowed to continue. Now, throughout our training, even during the selection process, the first 10 hours, we had to write down names, and nothing happened, right? Nothing happened to those people we wrote down. Well, now we're like 8 days into our training.
Yeah.
We've just carried 2 people, myself included, up this
Yeah.
mountain, and we have to write down 2 names. So I'm hoping that it's like the other times where we don't really eliminate somebody. But in this case, it really was true. And I just thought, oh, here it is. Here's the part where I get cut. And I didn't.
You didn't, right?
I didn't. I can't, to me, I was just like, wow.
Oh yeah, and I felt bad after watching that clip for the guy actually that got cut. And on that note, let's go to another clip of you over there in Israel on the Warrior's Quest.
Asada until one of them gives up.
Come on, boys! Round the corner and away we'll go. Round the corner, Sally! Round the corner where them gals do go. Round the corner, Sally! Ah, Sally Brown, she's the gal for me. Round the corner, Sally!
When the hill gets steeper, the stretcher comes into play. Paula is the first in it, and things start to get really tough.
Go guys, run!
Two-thirds of the way up and everyone is just about exhausted. The instructors order Paula to get out of the stretcher. Now they are discussing what to do next.
Who's the lightest? The heaviest. Stefano. Paula. Heaviest guy on the stretcher.
Stefano, you're the heaviest.
The giant Greek weighs almost 100 kilograms. No one knows how to get him up the final part of the hill.
Touch the ground.
Guys, push from the stretcher itself. People.
Don't let it touch the ground.
And to make it a little bit harder, taking turns with the stretcher is forbidden.
Slipping, guys, it's slipping.
Push!
In the end, they manage. No one has collapsed. No one has given up. For now, all is good, but it only lasts momentarily. In the ruins of the ancient fortress, a shock awaits our fighters. They have to eliminate one of their own. They are to write down 2 names. The name written down the most times has to quit. Let's hope it isn't our Hunza.
I refuse to choose.
You refuse to choose.
Yes.
And you can do that?
can't make me decide who's gonna leave.
I'll tell you, I sacrificed one person and I sacrificed myself.
After a few moments, we know the results. Avi Moyle takes a cable car ticket out of his file. The one who is out is to leave the team immediately.
All right, the person that will pack his stuff and go with Marcus, and make sure it's Dimitri. Come, Dimitri. Thank you. Take the ticket.
For 7 days, you work hard as hell. You don't collapse. Your body is working. And then your colleagues send you home. The unfortunate one is Dimitri.
If you're watching that clip, folks at home, you know that my guest Paula Meyers did not get aced out of the Warrior's Quest, but that was exciting. And so then you guys make it up, and then you go back down.
Yes, we walked down.
Okay, you walk down, and then they took you up in a helicopter back up, or what?
No, from there, okay, so after that, that was just the first part of our day. We went and we did more training and more testing with the head of the International Krav Maga Federation, Avi Moyle. And so we were at the base of Masada, which was just incredible. So we're at the base of Masada. And just a quick note, Masada is like this historic piece of Israel.
Oh yeah, I've been there.
And Israeli history that it was their last stand against the Romans, where it was like over 900 people committed suicide rather than right before the Romans breached the wall, rather than go under Roman control and into Roman captivity. So we've got that historic piece plus the fact that we just climbed up it in ungodly heat. Not much of a break.
Yep.
Carry our stuff back down. Yep. Now we're at the base of Masada, between Masada and the Dead Sea, and we're doing more training, right? And at one point somebody said, are we ever going to be able to eat today?
Right, yeah.
And they're like, oh, okay, so we got a quick break to eat, and then we're doing more training, more testing. They rounded us back up, took us back to Masada and said, okay, now you don't have to carry anybody, but you're going to run up. You have to run up. So I'm like, okay.
And how was that for the slowest runner? How was that?
Yeah, well, it turns out it was more of a psychological test because they actually had cable tickets for us, and we got to ride to the top. What an incredible relief. Got to ride to the top, and we got our diplomas for passing the first part of Warrior's Quest, and that's when we actually became operational.
Cool. Let me ask you a question, because with the training that you've had beforehand, did you feel, and be honest about this, did you learn anything really new that you didn't know from a self-defense standpoint?
From a self-defense standpoint, not really, because I'd already done the law enforcement training.
And that's what I figured, but I wanted to find out.
But in terms of life experience and the life of a soldier, the life of going through selection, learning the intelligence. We did intelligence and surveillance. So we actually had to hunker down, or in one case I actually found a good hiding spot in a tree and did surveillance in a scenario where we actually had somebody drive through and park their car as if they were terrorists transporting arms. And we had to get as much information about them as we could. And it turns out my location was ideal. I was up in a tree. They parked almost right underneath me. And so I got license plates, I got descriptions, I knew exactly what they were doing. It was fantastic. And we also had to do that at night. So we got a little bit of prep time to find a spot to spend the night to do more surveillance there. And then unbeknownst to us, we actually had to spend the night there. So fortunately, I had found a good spot on the ground, well covered, so I wasn't too uncomfortable, but we spent the whole night doing surveillance, packed up camp, went to do more training.
And you're sleeping on the ground.
Well,
Are you like, what are you sleeping in? Sleeping bag?
Nothing.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Almost Roy. That's Japanese for interesting. Omoshiroi. You know, that's, folks at home, obviously, that's not the fitness king here. I like to do things like jump rope, but I like the comforts of the real world. But it sounds exciting hearing about it.
It was very exciting.
I'm a wimp, folks, I'm a wimp.
Yeah, experience of a lifetime.
Yeah. And with the training, let me ask you this. Have you ever had to actually use your self-defense training yourself, Paula, in a real-life situation?
Yeah, there were a couple of times where I actually used more of an avoidance type technique and made the people that I was suspicious of show their intent to either do harm or pass me by.
Yeah. So you've had. Let me ask you a question. We actually need to take a break for a public service announcement, but I'm wondering if you wouldn't mind, when we come back, I love to just have you demonstrate. We have a guy that I invited down to the show today. I'd love it if you could just demonstrate with him a few self-defense. Would you mind doing that?
No, not at all.
Okay, sounds good, folks at home. I'm Ron Henderson, the Fitness King, with my guest, Paula Meyers. We're going to be right back.
If I see him as the threat, is to move away from that threat. Not only move away from that threat, but get an object between myself and the threat. Could be a chair, could be a car, could be a table. Anything to put a barrier between myself and the threat. I can leave the room, right? Now, in terms of timeline, if I see it a little further away, he's coming towards me, he's advancing towards me, boom, there's my reacting. And I'm kicking, I'm doing something to prevent him from coming close to me. He gets a little bit closer and maybe I'm a little distracted, boom, 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 and I'm still doing something to defend myself. His hands come towards my throat. I'm doing some sort of proactive, we call it an inside defense. Now, if I'm really distracted, maybe I'm texting, and I'm really distracted and he gets close to me, boom. So Mark doesn't have groin protection, so we're a little hesitant. But if we go through this slow motion, I'm distracted, he's in. Now, this isn't really how an attacker would attack if they're intent on doing me harm, and don't think that I'm going to beat the crap out of them. So bring your feet in a little bit, relax, like I'm not going to hurt you. Right? And he's in tight. See how his arms are bent? His goal is basically to squeeze my head off. So what I have to do is do an explosive, reactive type of a move to get rid of that threat. And one of the things I really like about Krav Maga is I'm standing here and I'm thinking, I'm not going to let that guy get close. Yeah, boom. But what I'm doing is, even if I were seated and not paying attention, that same move I just did while I was being seated, somebody gets close, boom, 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 will still work. I'm still focused on him.
All right.
And we're teaching people,
Awesome.
look around. Who else is there?
Yeah. Now that's awesome. Folks at home, I hope you enjoyed that. I mean, I'm glad that he was the one demonstrating.
Paula Meyers, and I'm 48.
48?
Yes.
That is fantastic. Congratulations.
Thank you. I'm from Minnesota. I've been doing Krav Maga for 8 years.
Oh, Paula does know of what she speaks. See, she took a vacation in the summer to Israel to work with Special Armed Forces in a reality TV setting where they would play a game of survival.
I train with the International Krav Maga Federation, and I go to Israel typically about once a year. Last May, when I was in Israel, I heard about something that they were calling Warrior's Quest, which was a military instructor's course, but which included the selection process, and if you made it through the selection process, basic training, and then if you made it through basic training and passed those tests, special forces training, and then if you made it through that, going operational to run mock operational forays.
Paula is also a champion in Thai box and MMA. At almost 50 years old, she keeps amazing the others.
They work together, they live together in the heat, in the middle of the purposely executed tests of endurance that led to exhaustion. She had to prove, the only female among the 10 remaining, that she was worthy.
So I went in with full knowledge that it was going to be hard. And I also went in with the full confidence that this is what I was supposed to do, that I was going to make it through. The only way I wasn't going to make it through is if I broke a leg or something like that. I knew that I could do it.
When the final bell rang, she was still standing. There was a feeling of self-satisfaction, the kind that you only realize when you push yourself beyond your borders to a place that tells you it is much about mind over matter.
So I came back with a new awareness and a new drive to equip as many people as I can.